quick follow-up video about underline styling and something that one of you noticed about how thickness and skip ink were interacting with each other, a comment that was made and a change that was made to how we're implementing it based on that comment. In the video that I did about underline styling, there's a demonstration in here where I show how you can combine thickness and skip ink or offset and the kind of results that you might be able to get. Well, if you look in the comments, which, by the way, I love these comments. Thank you so much for everybody who's been commenting. It's really great to hear from you, what you need, ideas you have. Down here, Bokeman123, they wrote, I don't like the exaggerated gap left by text decoration skip ink that is in proportion to thickness. I would suggest another property to control skipping the margin. So this is a great example of where someone brings up a problem and also makes a suggestion for a solution. So here you can look, I've got 3 different examples. It's basically the same HTML 3 times with this silly doggo impsum sentence. And I've got here, the first one is kind of the default color and the default thickness of an underline, but the second and third ones, I've got text decoration thickness 0.15 m and also 0.5 m, so half an m, and this is half an m, and this is a fraction of an m. But you can notice that this space right here is, there's not a lot of space between the letter and this G and that piece of underline, but when the line gets thicker, there's more of a space. When the line gets even thicker than that, there's even more of a space. We can actually look at this example using developer tools and come in here and let's see, text decoration thickness gets computed to 4 1/3 pixels. So we can actually just make this be 5 pixels. I think this is the middle one. So you can see as we make it thicker and thicker and thicker, like the space gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it's disappearing. This is crazy. Or you can make it thinner and thinner and thinner and it gets closer and closer and closer. This part really makes sense for it to be really tight. When the line is thin, that's nice. And then to grow a little bit, but it doesn't really work when it's really, really wide. And somebody suggested, like, well, maybe you should just not be using skip ink when you're making your line that's that wide. That's true. Probably you don't want to use skip ink, and you're going to switch the color to something like some faint light color. And right, that's fine. Right, there are lots of designs where you shouldn't use skip ink. But what if you do? What if you have an idea that you want? So I went over to the CSS Working Group where anybody actually can, in this GitHub repo here, put in an issue. And these are all the issues that the CSS Working Group is discussing right now. And so I opened up an issue. I'm a member of the CSS Working Group. I opened up an issue and said, hey, is this what we want? Is this on purpose? Or did this slip through the cracks? Or what's the deal with this? And so we had a little bit of a debate. Jonathan Q and Miles Maxfield jumped in. Jonathan Q is the engineer at Mozilla who implemented text decoration, all the things for underline styling in Firefox. Miles Maxfield, also an engineer who understands typography and has worked on the typography for WebKit for a really long time. So they debated a little bit in this issue, and there were some other ideas that got tossed around. And then Jonathan just went and changed our implementation. So if you come over here to Firefox Nightly, and we look at the exact same example, you can see that, in fact, it gets bigger and bigger to a certain point, and then it doesn't get any bigger than that. I can open this up in DevTools and do the same thing. And we can mess with this and make it, see, right? So now it's sort of tight when the line is really thin. The space for the skip ink, that gap gets bigger. But then it's capped. There's a clamp, what the CSS Working Group likes to call it, clamp. There's a clamp. So it gets bigger to a certain point, and then it doesn't get any bigger than that, which is awesome. And I also just think that it was really kind of cool that it happened so quickly. Like within 2 days, we had made a change to Firefox, solved this problem for us, and had a conversation with the folks with WebKit to see what they might want to do for Safari. Those are the 2 browsers that have implemented this, so probably this will get interrupt. There's this kind of thing is not something that probably will specify in the spec to a whole lot of detail. Here's a spec, by the way. All this is in the text decoration level 4 specification, which is shepherded by Elika Entamat and Koji Ishii, and there's a lot of detail in here about how these things interact with each other, thickness and skipping. But there's not every single bit of detail ever. So each browser engineer actually makes some decisions about exactly how it's going to work. If you're curious more about how the spec works and what it's intended to do, you can totally go ahead and read this editor's draft of the specification. All of that's to say, comment on our videos, speak up, tell us what you need. I want to hear from you. That's what my job is as a developer advocate, designer advocate at Mozilla, is to hear from you, understand what it is that web designers, web developers, people who make websites for a living, what do we need? What do you need from browsers? What do we want? What do we need from the specification groups? How can we get what it is that we all want onto the web and refine the details of what's there, make sure it's correct, make sure that the bugs get worked out and things get fixed. Thanks for watching.